Hi, and welcome to the first advisory board session. My name is Igor Gorlatov. I'm the founder of Advisory 5, which is a platform that provides advisors as a service to health tech startups. In this video, we'll talk about pre-work and things you do prior to having your first session with advisors. And we have a video about building your advisory board and some advice on how to put that advisory board together. Then we'll talk about items to include in your agenda. We'll talk about common mistakes to avoid when you're running your first session with your board. And then we'll talk about what sets Advisory 5 apart from a board that you would put together yourself or use a different service to build the board. So the pre-work is probably one of the most important things. Here you have to look at the profiles of your advisors again, get to know them, what they are experts in, how their experience can be leveraged in the session. It's also a good idea for most founders to prepare an executive summary about your venture. In some cases, it might be a pitch. In some cases, it might be a separate document that formulates what your business is about, but it should not be very long. Like 1 or 2 pages is probably more than enough, or like up to 8 slides, so that it's not overwhelming and something that advisors can read prior to the meeting or in the first couple of minutes in the meeting. You can walk them through that executive summary. It saves time and helps to create this picture of what your startup is about. The third aspect is to think about some key questions that you would like input on. And this is something that startups sometimes struggle with. They view the meeting with advisors as a presentation time. It is not. It is the way to engage. And it takes some thinking to figure out what questions to ask. And if you can't come up with questions, you can actually ask that question of advisors. What questions should I be asking? What are my possible blind spots here? Plan for follow-up. So be ready to share what specific items and how you will implement, how will you take advice. You don't necessarily have to act on any piece of advice that you receive, but advisors will expect that you will talk with them what your process is going to be like and how will you let them know, for example, by email, that you are doing something tangible with advice. And finally, most importantly, be prepared to listen and to be open to feedback so that you have openness to consider perspectives that are different from yours. So what does the agenda look like? Typically, you would start with introductions. For introductions, I like to add an informal question. For example, what are your plans for the weekend? Or about a hobby of a person. This way you get to know your advisors a little bit better. And advisors, in case they haven't worked together before, they get to know each other as well a little bit better. Then you could spend a little bit time presenting your pitch or doing an overview of your executive summary. The next step would be to share what are your immediate goals or what's the next milestone. I'm talking here about a 90-minute advisory board meeting where 75 minutes is spent with the advisor, and this is the format we're using within Advisory 5. Those meetings happen monthly, so they tend to be very practical and focused on immediate things you can accomplish. So yes, advisors can be leveraged to build a strategy, long-term plan, but at the end of the day, the focus of each meeting is around actionable items, things that you'll be working on for the next 1, 2, 3 months. Ensuring specific goals or milestones in that time frame is extremely helpful and helps focus the work with your advisors. Then you can ask advisors to say where do they feel they can be most helpful to you based on the information you shared. You can have some time for an open Q&A, where you can start digging into a specific challenge or question. For example, one founder recently had a meeting and he scheduled a session with the VP of innovation at a big hospital system. And essentially, he used the time in the meeting with advisors or section of the meeting to prepare for that conversation. So such tactical discussions are probably one of the best ways to use your advisory board. Before dropping from the call or ending the meeting, it's good to discuss the next steps. What will the focus of the next meeting be? Any ideas from the conversation that you had that you would like to implement? Was the meeting helpful? And ideally, you want to schedule the next meeting date. Finally, at least what we do with Advisory 5, we allow you, the founder, leave and advisors stay on for the next 15 minutes. Because on the calendar, the meeting is booked for 90 minutes. The last 15 minutes is for advisors to discuss what they've heard from you and kind of build a strategy. How can they form a team that is helping you? At that point, you typically drop off, but it's good to make sure that this time is allotted in the agenda. So what are the typical mistakes that health tech or just any type of startup founders make when having the first advisory board meeting? The most common is about overloading advisors with information and not engaging in active listening. So this is where you just talk, and try to give them everything you know about your startup, about your challenge. It can be truly overwhelming and it doesn't create proper engagement. It's best to see the first meeting as these kind of creating curiosity about your company and not necessarily answering every question advisors might have. And also, it's an opportunity to build relationships and to get to know advisors as well. So it's important to create space and to show them that you're ready to listen, ready to engage and have fun, because it's not fun to just listen. It's much more fun to brainstorm, generate ideas, and for advisors to be truly helpful. It's also important to define roles and expectations. Sometimes people forget about this, like what do you expect from your advisors? What do they expect from you? Talking through those items is important. Again, with Advisory 5, we have some pre-sessions or pre-training for both founders and advisors where we set everyone up for success, but still it's a good idea to revisit those ideas and to discuss how exactly your expectations align or don't align. Another mistake is avoiding discussion of challenges. So everything is great with your startup. Again, if everything is great, it's difficult for advisors to contribute. Having specific challenges prepared for them is a great idea. Finally, it's great to have a follow-up plan. If you don't, it's difficult to create this momentum for this engagement. So about Advisory 5, what sets us apart, we have a framework or a process where a lot of these things are taken care of by the program, by the company, so that advisors and founders can focus on engagement. So we train advisors both prior to joining the program, and then every month they get together and review what's going on in the program, what are the best practices. This way the program is constantly evolving and getting better. We're doing onboarding for founders, again, helping you as a founder figure out how to leverage the advisory board, articulate your goals prior to the first meeting, and learn from experience of other founders that have used this service for longer periods of time. We also dedicate a specific role, which is a chair of the board, and this is the advisor that helps you facilitate the sessions. They help kind of manage the discussion. So this way, when you show up, you don't have to kind of participate and also lead the conversation. It reduces the burden a little bit. So essentially, you get a facilitator for the session. We as an organization also measure your satisfaction of advisors, and see what's going on in each advisory board meeting. So if there are problems or even inconveniences, those can be addressed really quickly. Sometimes it's just about helping with facilitation of the conversation. Sometimes it's about changing some of the advisors on your team, or helping you and your advisors figure out the most productive format to have effective conversations. This is something that is hard to obtain otherwise. And then we stick to monthly cadence. So it's not quarterly, it's not biannually, it's every month. This way, your advisors truly become part of your extended team and can be leveraged more consistently, and you get to build a relationship with them faster than in an environment where those meetings are not so regular. Also, each meeting is shorter and more manageable for everyone's schedule. So this is it. Hopefully, you've learned how to organize your first advisory board session. And if you would like to learn more about Advisory 5, check our website and check